Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Smith. I want to thank you for coming out to our event today, our wellness event. We are here today, the Wellness Work Program is here today to provide employees and their family members information about sorry, I was reading this off the sheet. We're here to provide you tools and resources about having a family, starting a family. So the first person we're going to have up here is Patty. She's going to be your MC today, and she will be introducing our speakers. Can you hear me? Hello? You might have to talk.
Hello, everyone. I'm Patty with the Wellness Program. I'm here to introduce our very first guest speaker. We have three on the agenda today. So our first one is Dr. Angelique Reedus McCoy. She is a pediatrician from University Hospitals, Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. She is a native of Greater Cleveland area. She received her Bachelor of Science degree from Spelman College and her medical degree from Case Western Reserve University Schools of Medicine. After completing her pediatric residency at Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C., she returned to the Cleveland area, ultimately serving as the section head of general pediatrics at Huron Hospital and the Stephanie Tubbs Jones Family Health Center in East Cleveland for 10 years. Dr. Reedus McCoy now divides her time between her primary care practice at the UH Ahuja Rainbow Center for Women and Children and her role as Assistant Dean of Student Affairs at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. She also serves as the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Graduate Medical Education at Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. Please welcome Dr. Angelique Reedus McCoy.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, I'll try to make sure. Just let me know. Yell out if you can't. So thank you, Patty, for the introduction. I sound very official, but honestly, I'll give you a little bit more context so you kind of know my perspective as both a pediatrician as well as a parent. So I am, again, from the Cleveland area. I grew up in Bedford Heights, went to Bedford High School. I was the youngest of three, and my parents were kind of what they called themselves this, like aspiring middle class, like working class family. My mom was like the neighborhood babysitter. My dad was a mail carrier for the post office. And so they worked really hard. They did not go to college, but they had like big dreams for their kids. And so they worked really, really hard to make sure that we could get there. And so they parented us in that way, recognizing that we were all different. So I was the youngest of the three of us. And so as the youngest, in my personality, I was kind of the quiet, shy kid. I needed a lot more like encouragement and nudging like as I was growing up. My brother was kind of super sweet kid. My mom always says as her baby, he's her favorite. But she would always say like he was her super sweet baby, but he was very extroverted, popular, athlete, went to college on a basketball scholarship. Like he was that kid. And then my sister, who's 11 years older than me, was the oldest, much more of like a pistol, a little bit more like wanting to just like find her own path, very creative, and really had this totally different like path for herself that she went through the arts and ultimately into communications. She's doing wonderful. She's like a news anchor now. So, but we were all really, really different people. And so I say that because when we think about parenting, we kind of have to parent our kids in a very individualized way, right? The way my parents parented me was very different than how they parented my sister and my brother. And the other part of that was that I came last. So I'm 11 and 9 years younger than my siblings. And so our parents learned a lot of lessons in their first, with their first two children. And so my brother and sister would tease me and say I had it easy because I think they learned some things, that maybe they wouldn't do again with child number 3. And so as we approach parenting, I think we kind of do the same thing. Number one, we take kind of assessment of how our parents raised us. And there's some wonderful things in that. Again, my parents were crazy hardworking. There's a work ethic. Nobody has a work ethic like my father. But there are also some things I might not do, right? That, my parents utilized when they raised me. And they would even say the same, like they grew, they acknowledged that. And so as we approach parenting, we want to do that in our way. So for me, I'm a mother of 2. I have an 11-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. My daughter came into the world a little early. She had some medical problems her first year. She had like some delays that she needed therapies for. And so there was a different way that I had to nurture her and care for her. And now she's, as I was just telling someone, she is like my pistol. Now she's my pistol. She's my sister, right? Like she's the one who's got, super headstrong and determined to kind of find her own way. Whereas my son is kind of like my brother. He's just extroverted. He kind of does his thing. I don't have to do a whole lot. He's kind of finding his way, but I know I still have to guide him and create boundaries for him. And so all that to say, as we think about, again, parenting our children, really thinking about who we are as a person who has been parented, and then thinking about what we want to take from that and how we might want to do things differently. The three things that I always say, like to parents, when we think about like what kind of parent I'm going to be and how to approach this, particularly when we start from infancy, moving up to kindergarten age, is one, approach it with love, obviously, and I think we all do that inherently. And a whole lot of humility. One of my friends told me once that parenting is the most humbling job ever, and I 100% agree. Like, I am humbled every day. I am a pediatrician. I do not have all the answers. I'm learning as I'm going as well. And so lots of humility. And then some humor in there too, because sometimes you need a little humor to push you through. But I think you put that love with that responsibility, that humility, and that little humor to push you through is really helpful. So just kind of going to talk a little bit about just kind of parenting across the spectrum from infancy to from the newborn period to kindergarten. Just out of curiosity though, for who's here, any current parents of infants? Right, oh, I got one. Cool. Any others? Okay. Toddlers? Got some toddlers. Okay. Preschoolers, kindergartners, early grade school. Okay. So we got you covered. Cool. And then we got some other folks that are parents maybe of older kids. Cool. So you are like our village, right? Like, so we rely on our village when we think about like how we make these decisions and how we get through the stumbles and how we get through the missteps. Our village is powerful and wonderful, but they also are their own family, right? And so I always encourage families too to not feel so much pressure, especially in the era of social media, and you got people posting their kids winning awards at 4 years old and dance competitions and all this stuff. Like, there's pressure to like be some super parent and have a super child. But everybody's got their own story behind those pictures. Everybody's got different experiences. And so again, really thinking about, I'll say it probably over and over again, individualizing that experience for you as a parent. But just kind of touching on the age ranges briefly, I would say in the newborn period, obviously folks are, full of all this anticipation. They get this beautiful, beautiful baby, and then you get kind of jumped into like this crazy busy time of the fastest brain development, the fastest physiological development in our entire lives. That first year, more happens in those little people's bodies and those little people's brains than happens for the rest of their lives. And so we just have to keep up. That's our job. And so we have a lot of expectations when we, are waiting for the baby to come about all the things we hope they're going to be. But we know the reality for those who've had kids is that you get into this cycle of feeding and changing and trying to get some sleep and then waking up and repeating that process. And literally every 2 to 3 hours, that's your life for a while. And you hope that somewhere in there you get some time to rest. But there are these little beautiful moments because the reality is, like, for newborns, they sleep literally about 16 to 20 hours a day. And so in those, 4 to 6 hours or so, or 4 to 8 hours that they're awake, you have these moments to bond. And so when we think about infants and what they know to do, just based on their development at that stage, is they can bond. They love skin to skin. They love kind of that kangaroo care, that time with the parent, whether it's the mother, the father, the other parenting person. That skin-to-skin time is a really important time to bond, that warmth. They know your smell, they know your voice. They can see you. They can't see far, and they can't see well, but they can see. So infants, newborns can see about 12 to 18 inches away. So it's like I always say, they're perfectly created. Like, you hold them, they can see your face. You talk to them right in front of you, they can see your face. They see kind of in grays, like these kind of gray hues. They don't see colors very well, but they can see you. And even more importantly, they can hear you. So I always say the voice that probably is most powerful for newborns and for like early infancy is the father or the other parenting person, because that's usually the person who's been talking to the baby the most, like close up. And they hear that voice. So literally just the other day in clinic, I was telling his dad, I was like, you got this, because the baby's fussing. We turned off the lights to get the baby to calm down. And Dad just started like leaning over to him and whispered in his ear. And that baby just settled down so beautifully. So I say there's so much power, even though they don't understand what we're saying, but they know who we are. They know our smell. They know our voice. They see us and they start to process who we are so that they recognize us very, very quickly. And I will say too, the other part I always just want to mention with newborns is that bonding oftentimes is immediate. They come out into the world, your love grows, you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know how I was living my life without this little person. But then there are those other instances, and I can say honestly 100% transparency. At first I was like, who is this little person? Like, it took a minute. Like, you got to figure out, okay, like, what am I supposed to do? I've been in rooms with babies, in my job for 30 minutes, but I never lived with a little baby for 24 hours a day. Like, that's the difference, right? And so there is that reality of that. And so, sometimes the bond grows, sometimes it's instantaneous. And then, of course, we have to recognize the extremes of that, right? When we maybe are fully, really disconnected or really down or anxious or overwhelmed and kind of moving in that postpartum period, postpartum depression phase. And so if there are questions like that, of course, connecting with your OB doctors, connecting with your family doctors, pediatricians or doulas, whoever is involved in the care, and making sure that you get resources. So that obviously is a very real thing, which can be a whole nother talk. But very quickly, like I said, like they move really quickly from newborns to really being much more aware of their world. And so about 2 months, they're cooing, they're smiling because they're actually happy. Like it's actually, these bonds and these connections are building. Such that by 4 months, which is always my favorite age, they are tickled to the tips of their toes. They are laughing and giggling and squealing, and you really have, seeing this person evolve, this personality really come up just in that very short period of time. And so one of the things that I think I always try to impart to parents, we do in our office, and I think we've got some of the vendors here today, is read into my babies. That was like my favorite thing to do, because even if the rest of the world was crazy, like when it was time for them to go to bed, they didn't understand the words I was saying in those early months, but they knew my voice, they knew my smile. If I could make little silly animal sounds or whatever, they started to process that. And so that was a way for us to bond as well, to continue that bond, but also to help promote their speech development. And so I always just encourage families, like every day, even if it's just 3 minutes, 5 minutes, if it goes longer, they want to keep, they're chill, you're chill, keep going. But reading every day is one great way, again, just to support that bond, but also to continue to support their brain development, their speech development later on. So as they move past kind of that fun, kind of still mobile, like not very mobile age of infancy, they do start to get a little wigglier, of course. And so then we kind of move from like supporting and cuddling this little baby to really giving them space to grow in terms of their motor skills. And so for those of you who have 4-month-olds and 6-month-olds, you put them on their belly, they push up. I used to work when I was in college, I worked at Sears Portrait Studio. I love 4-month-olds and 5-month-olds, 6-month-olds, because they could push up and smile, and it was the perfect age to take pictures. So I always say, like, enjoy that time, but very soon thereafter, they're rolling, and then they start to roll off of things or have the potential to roll off of things. They're grabbing, they have the potential to grab things and get them into their mouth. And then, as many of you know, between 6 and 9 months, these little ones are starting to pull up and like have a whole new world open to them. And so I think we go from, being like this nurturer and cuddler, which we will continue to be, but also this protector, this physical protector of space. And so I always tell parents, that 3-foot underworld, if you got counters, end tables, coffee tables, all of that in your house, once that baby can pull up, they have reach to everything. And so you really have to go through the checklist of whether it's the outlets, whether it's the corners of tables, the cords on the tables, all of these things that your little one can now get their hands on. And as they get close to 1, they start to maybe understand no a bit. So you give a firm no, and it's okay to do that, to set some boundaries. They'll understand that. But of course, they have very short-term memories, and so they're going to keep on pushing those little baby boundaries. So it's funny enough when like parents come in at 1-year age, we're like excited, and I was asking, so what's all the new fun stuff they're doing? And they're like, they're all over the place. And sometimes they'll jokingly say they're bad. They're like, oh, these being so bad. I'm like, that's not bad. That's exploring. So they really are these truly like explorers. They want to taste everything. They don't know what the stuff is. They're trying to figure it all out, have no sense of what's dangerous and not. And so that is our job, to really create this safe space for our little ones, to not really limit their opportunities to kind of go out into the world, but really creating a safe space at home where they're using gates, kind of keeping them, of course, out of areas where there's standing water, but really giving us space to explore, but to do so in a safe way. The other thing I always mention is this skill, because once they get this skill, which is about 9 months, they pick stuff up, everything goes to the mouth again. They don't know any better, so our job is really to keep them as safe as possible. So they move into this toddler phase between 1 and 2 years of age, and of course the other big thing is their words. They really start to add a lot more words to their little world. And so we, in pediatrics, we talk about expressive language and receptive language. Receptive language is what they understand. Expressive language is what they can say. So usually about 9 months or so, a lot of babies are saying mama, dada. They might sometimes know who they're talking about, and sometimes not. By 12 months, they usually know the difference between mama and dada, and oftentimes will say another word. Oftentimes it's no or stop, because we say that to them a lot, and so they hear that, because they really, really are little sponges. And so I always encourage parents to narrate their day, talk about everything they're doing. If they're walking outside, point to the clouds, point to the trees, point to the flowers. If they're in the house and they're putting on their clothes, say everything that you're doing. Put your leg in this hole, we're going to pull it up. Like really, literally narrate your day, so that every experience that they have is labeled with the words, so they can start to build their words. And then to be really conscious of what we're saying around them, or what's on TV, or what's around them, because again, they are sponging it all up. So it is not uncommon, and I again can say this as a parent, that my mom used to watch my kids, and she had a favorite curse word, and that word would come out of my son's mouth because he would hear her say it. She wouldn't say it, like she just reflexively would say it. So I always tell parents, be mindful of what's going around, because they hear it and they know the context of it. So be really careful about what we're exposing them to, and really trying to expose them to, the positive things, positive behaviors, as well as positive words. On that side too, I think one of the things that we see a lot, of course, is phones, and I see a lot of little ones, in the office, when parents will try to settle them down, they'll pull out a phone or a tablet, which I get in the moment is fine, but we really do try to encourage families to limit the screen time, just so that they really have an opportunity to learn from creative play, from reciprocal interaction, from back and forth interaction. And if they do use some screens, educationally is okay, but really trying to limit that to no more than 2 hours, just to, kind of optimize their learning experiences. And then, of course, as we move through this phase, they gain more words, that personality grows more and more, and that independence comes. So when we talk about those terrible twos, again, I try to change the word and say, this is my little independent baby now, because they're trying to do all the stuff. When they say, I can do that, or I do that by myself, they try to state their independence. And so really giving them, again, space to do that within boundaries. Setting guidelines, letting them know when something's wrong, but doing it in a way where you just kind of replace it with a positive behavior. So I try to encourage parents to do a lot of redirection, a lot of, moving away from the negative thing or ignoring the negative behavior. So if they are literally doing the fallouts and the tantrums, make sure they're safe and step away. And once they realize they're crying to nobody, they oftentimes will get up and keep it moving. So really trying to reinforce all the positive behaviors and try to redirect and potentially ignore those negative behaviors as best as possible. Of course, firm no's and letting them know, if they're hitting, that's not okay. But doing that in a quick way, making sure, again, that you promote and reinforce all the positive behaviors. And of course, one of the big things that independence comes into play is toilet training, which is can be a saga or it can be a quick chapter. Some parents get it really quickly in, and other parents are still, the kids are pushing 3 and they're still trying to get there. Literally, as a pediatrician, both of my kids were just about 3. My daughter was almost 3, my son was 3 years old. My son was oblivious to the whole process. My daughter was not oblivious, but just didn't always care. And so I always talk about, again, that independence being a part of it. Of course, that brain to bladder, brain to bowel part is also, that physiology part has to connect as well. But once that part happens and they kind of know what's going on, some of that is, decision making. You want to make sure they can get their clothes on and off. You want to make sure that they feel comfortable there. But at some point they have to make that decision. My daughter literally declared one day that she was not going to pee in her pull-up anymore, and literally that was the last day it happened. She said it out loud, and so they really do have some agency over themselves. Of course, with context that, we can't have overly high expectations of their understanding, but when they can kind of get to these goals and reach these milestones, you want to celebrate that with them, and again, provide a lot of reinforcement. And so lastly, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, but I think one of the really cool things after they get to past that toddler age into preschool age is really getting them ready for kindergarten. We very heavily promote children having at least the experience in pre-K, if not before that, really to kind of get to that point where they're really understanding the social aspect of school, as well as readying for all the A's, the letters and the numbers, and recognizing the letters in their name and writing the letters in their name. It's one thing to be able to say them out loud, but to actually be able to use a crayon or a pencil to write them is huge. And so I always encourage, try to provide resources for families so they can practice those things even before they get to kindergarten. Because sometimes when children get there and they haven't gotten those things mastered already, there's sometimes, it takes a little bit more catch-up work to get them there. But that part, I think kindergarten opens up obviously a whole nother chapter of life. it's a point in their lives where they start to have memories and experiences independent of us as parents. And so it's humbling again. It can be a little scary, but it's exciting. And again, we can have a whole nother conversation about that. But I'll go ahead and wrap up there. I don't know if anyone had any quick questions. Do we have time for questions? No? Maybe? No? I can hang around. I'll hang around. I'll do that. I'll hang around at the rainbow table right over there. All right, thank you so much for your attention. It was wonderful seeing you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reedus McCoy, for that wonderful presentation. Our next speaker is Carla Caraway. She's a native of Cleveland, Ohio. She's a single mother of 5 amazing children. A graduate of Lincoln West High School, she had gone on to earn an AAS in law enforcement as well as an AAS in criminal justice from Cuyahoga Community College. Carla also participated as a scholar in the Cleveland Council on World Affairs Exchange in Diplomacy Scholars Program, a program that strives to develop and inform future leaders how to be great leaders on a global scale. She's also a current assistant administrator, program assistant for the Department of Health Moms First program.
Cheat and go this way. All right. Hello, everybody. As she said, I am the assistant administrator for the Moms First program, and I'm interactive, so raise your hand if you know what Moms First does. All right. So Moms First is a Healthy Start program that focuses on reducing maternal mortality in low-income or African American and brown women. That's our focus. So I'm gonna start with a little story, right? Imagine kicking it with somebody all summer and then you get pregnant, right? So you get pregnant, and not only do you get pregnant, but you find out you're pregnant with twins. So now you're like, okay, let me ask you, Tatiana, when you have a baby, what's the one thing you always say? You want a boy or a girl? What do most people say? I want a healthy baby, right? So you, through your whole pregnancy, you says, I want my baby to be okay. Like how many toes, how many fingers, and then you have the baby, and everything's good. He's perfect, she's perfect, cool. And you think we made it, right? Y'all see my little black baby right here? Within its first year, just because this baby is black, within its first year, it is 15 times more likely to die than a white baby. And what we've learned is that doesn't matter whether I'm low income, high income, whether I'm on public or private insurance, it doesn't matter. Simply because this baby is black, it is more likely to die than a white baby. So what Moms First does is we educate. We're a community-based driven program that goes out into communities. We have community health workers that visit our clients at home to educate them about safe sleep, about breastfeeding. We have a fatherhood component because fathers are so important. You said you were a prospective father, right? What do you think your role is as a dad, besides rubbing her feet and going to get some pickles? What do you think your role is going to be as a dad? Yeah, so what about before the baby's here? So one of the things we want to teach with our fathers, especially within the black communities, because black fathers are active, despite what people may think, but it's how to speak up. If you were in the emergency room or you were in labor and delivery room and your wife couldn't speak for herself, do you know how to advocate for her? Do you know what dilation means, effacement means? Do you know if there should be blood in her catheter, what her blood pressure is? It's about educating people to be able to advocate for themselves and their loved ones. The Mom First, we give them supplies, pack and plays, breastfeeding kits, we get them in connection with doula, referral services. So when we talk about parenting, so your baby's here, you done had your twins and they're here. Now this is my personal story. I'm a mom of 5. I feel like I'm an expert at this parent. My oldest one is 22, and my youngest is an 8-year-old set of twins. And then I have, so 4 boys and 1 girl. When I was 25 years old, I gave birth to a set of twins, a boy and a girl. I was perfect to be a mom's first client. I was unemployed. I was living in my mom's basement. I had dropped out of college, and I'm giving birth to twins. I already have 2 kids. No, I already had 1. Now I'm about to have 3 kids, no education, no income. Gave birth to beautiful twins, full term, 37 weeks. I brought them home, I'm good. And then when they were 4 months old, I came into the room and found one of my twins unresponsive in his playpen. An hour later, the doctors at UH told me that my son had passed away, and eventually he died from SIDS. So, SIDS, like, he was in his playpen, he was by himself, you know, but it's more than that, you know, it's more than that. It's like, I was a smoker. I didn't smoke while I was pregnant, but I smoked before. I smoked after, you know. Nobody explaining to me that you should never smoke in the house, or you should change your clothes even if you go outside. It's just different factors that play into it. And even back then, I thought, God, like, if I was in a better situation, this wouldn't have happened. You know, have I graduated college, had my own house, like, I just wouldn't have been in this situation. And then you grow up and you find out that it doesn't matter if you're educated. It doesn't matter if your income level. It doesn't matter if you have private insurance. There are other factors that play into why Black babies and Black mothers die at a higher rate than their white counterparts. And a lot of times, well, race plays a big role in it, period. But a lot of times there are other avenues such as social determinants of health. You brought up reading to your baby. You know, that's something we stress in Moms First, is reading to your baby. It's so important, it's so important. But you gotta stop and ask, Mom, can you read? Do you know how to read? You know, social determinants, that's education. You know, are you in a safe place? Well, I live with my mom, but my uncle stay here too, and he get kind of touchy-feely. You know, do you have enough food? Well, I don't qualify for food stamps because I got a raise, but the food never lasts us to the end of the day. You know, it's about addressing those social determinants for parents so you can have a healthy baby. Our whole goal in Moms First is for mom to have a full, healthy, informed pregnancy, and for that baby to see its first year of life. Cuyahoga County has one of the highest infant mortalities and maternal mortality rates. Especially if you're a Black woman, you would have been better off giving birth during slavery than you are now, and that makes absolutely no sense. With our medical advances, educational advances, and technology, I shouldn't be safer having a baby in a cotton field than I do in a hospital, you know? And maternal mortality is about not just when you're pregnant. So this is why I'm bringing into the parent aspects. It's from the time you're pregnant up to 1 year after you give birth. So women can die from pregnancy-related factors up to 1 year after they die. You can't be a great parent if you're not there. That's why at Moms First, we stress making sure you go to your postpartum appointments. You know, those are important. Don't miss your appointment. You need transportation, we're gonna find a way for you to get there. You know, it's about letting them know that these little small factors that they do are so important to parenting. You know, and not till I lost my son, you know, that you start researching, you know, as a parent, you always, what could I do if I had done, what if I had done, the ifs will drive you crazy. I was lucky enough to be blessed with another set of twins. So now that's little 8-year-olds. The one set of twins, she's 19, and she's at Cleveland State. And my daughter's, I'm about to be a grandma. And so it's me stressing those same factors to her about parenting. You cannot be a great parent if you're not here. You also can't be a great parent. We also have mortality, which is if you die, and then morbidity, which is factors or physical factors that affect you, even though you may not die. So we're talking about high blood pressure, diabetes, that you got from when you're pregnant, that affects you after you, while you're parenting. And that is why, you know, being informed we at Moms First, we have a wonderful program. We're in a pilot program, which is the blood cuff, where we give our moms blood pressure cuffs, where they can take their own blood pressure, and if their blood pressure is too high, then they know they need to see a doctor. So it's about being informed as a parent. And like I said, when I brought up the fatherhood part, it's about teaching effective co-parenting. It's about fathers addressing their stress. We had a wonderful segment a week ago where our fatherhood coordinator informed us that fathers do get postpartum depression too. And that's us addressing that. And then just you understanding, making men more inclusive in the process, like appointments, understanding, making decisions. Fathers are so important in supporting the parenting process. And so that's what Moms First, that's what we do. If you go to our table, I do have some handouts for you. I have them on development. So like I said, in Moms First, we focus from actually preconception. So we talk to our clients about birth control, spacing out your babies, at least 18 months, giving your body time to rest and recuperate. So then, prenatal, we do prenatal depression screenings, and then postpartum. And then we do baby development from the age of birth all the way to 18 months. Also on our table, I have that pamphlet for you guys to look at the stage of development. But when you're parenting and you are looking at your baby's development or your milestone, you need to understand that every baby is different. She spoke about it, how her and her brothers are completely different. I got my 8-year-old set of twins. When I tell you they're as opposite as they can be, one is light skinned, one is dark skinned, one is fat, one is skinny. They are nothing alike. One is Harry Potter, I kid you not, he has a scar on his head, glasses and everything, and I don't know. But one started crawling at 5 months, started walking at 8 months, started talking at 1.5 years. His brother didn't learn how to talk till he was 2. And so I used to compare them. I would go to my pediatrician and be like, well, baby B is doing X, Y, and Z, and baby B isn't, or baby A isn't. And he would say, you can't compare them. You can't compare them. Like, he'll get it when, he's not outside of the outliers, you'll get it. So you can't be like, oh, my first baby did this, and now my second baby is doing this. Every child is unique. Now, there are some things that you should be aware of, that your baby should be doing. I had a friend who was like, yeah, my daughter's 4 and she doesn't talk. And I'm just like, yeah, I think something maybe, like, what do you mean she's 4? She don't say anything? He's like, she don't say anything. Yeah, baby, I think you need to take him. Then he says, well, I took her to the doctor. The doctor said he could write me a referral, but it would be 6 months, so we just didn't do it. Baby, you need to find a different doctor. You have to learn how to advocate. I know a lot of times we trust doctors or whatever, but you have to learn how to advocate. If one doesn't take your concern seriously, then you need to find another one. I was lucky to be blessed with a pediatrician who, if I said my son had too much gas, he was writing a referral to go to a gastroenterologist. Like, let's go see to be safe. But it's understanding that during them stages of development that those are just milestones and guidelines for you to focus on, and just to know when something is out. Like I said, we have the flyers in the back. I also have some information if you want to know the exact numbers on like the mortality rate in Cuyahoga County. When I tell you it's off the charts. But the crazy thing is, I went to a conference this weekend and they said for us to reduce the mortality rate in America, we have to save 3,700 babies a year. So, okay, 3,700 babies, but it's 365 days in a year. That means we only have to save 10 babies a day. Like 10 babies a day. And when it comes to like maternal mortality, 61% of the women who die, whether you're black or white, is preventable. So these are deaths that can be prevented by just having education, access. So make sure you stay informed as a parent. Always keep reading, always keep updating, searching out for information. And that's why, like in Moms First, we're big on education. We give out monthly education, monthly training, breastfeeding, everything. We have a little app called Pacify. So yeah, you guys, if you have babies and you have infants and you're breastfeeding, we have an app called Pacify that if you have any trouble latching on or milk or soreness, you can reach out through this app and you will get a nurse who will help you consult and get you through your problems. We're just big on educating and getting that knowledge out and using the community. Anytime you're doing community-based programs, that means you're listening to your community, asking them what their problems are and what solutions they have. A lot of times, government organizations have a hero complex, whereas we know how to fix your problems without addressing to the community what are your problems and how do you think. So community-based driven programs is about using the community to come up with solutions and then implementing those solutions. So we're out in the community, like I said, parenting. We also, our community health workers are certified in massage, infant massage. Little babies get like little infant massage. But it's just whatever we can do to like make sure that baby gets to 1 year of life. Every baby deserves 1 year of life. Every baby deserves a happy home, food, security, and all the other stuff that, oh my God, that's my kids' school calling me now. But they do. But it is. So we're here. Moms First is here. If you have any questions, like I said, we do serve like out in the community, but we're always open for questions, concerns, advice. I have like I said, parenting advice. I've been doing this parenting thing for 22 years. I tell people my first baby was that was my trial baby. I messed that one up. Oh, when I tell y'all I messed that one up. But I got it right on the rest of them. But my oldest, when I tell y'all he's spoiled rotten, I got that one all wrong. But y'all laughing, I'm so serious. But anybody have any questions? All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Our last speaker is Tiffany Ashley. She was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. She is currently the Director of Parent Education and Family Resources at Merrick House, which is a community center in Tremont. She has worked as a case manager for the Moms First program since 2014, primarily servicing the west side of Cleveland. She also has over 20 years of management and training experience, which includes doula training, infant massage, and safety treatment, safety measures, and de-escalation interventions, just to name a few. She spent over 10 years creating programming, training, and working with some of the most challenging youth with behavioral and mental health challenges in the state of Ohio in residential treatment. So please welcome Ms. Tiffany Ashley.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tiffany Ashley, and yes, I have 3 first names. And I say that because that's always the question. When they say Ashley, I'm like, no, that's my last name. My first name is Tiffany. So I'm a bit of a comedian sometimes, so I like to add laughter to everything I do, especially when I'm doing some type of presentation. I want to lighten things up, so I think as parents, we have to give ourselves grace, okay? You have to be able to look back and laugh at things that you've done, or, because here's the deal. So I tell this story because I know that there were times when I was younger that I stood on things and I would argue with my mom or my father. And as I look back, it's like, was it that serious? And it's funny now, but it's not necessarily funny when it happens. So I have a son. And when he was about 3 years old, I used to do hair in my house. I'm also a licensed cosmetologist. So I was doing hair one day, and I kept looking at him, and he just kept walking into the room, right? And I'm like, he just had this gleam in his eye, so I knew he was about to do something. He was gonna say something, do something. And I'm like, okay, TJ, please don't embarrass me. So he walks up to my client, and he's looking at her. He walks out the room, he comes back. I'm like, okay, here it goes. I know it's about to be something. And he looks at her and he says, Jessica, you're missing a tooth.
So at this point, I am just horrified as a parent. It's like, what do you do? What do you say, right? And she's like, no, TJ, like I have a gap in my teeth. And he's like, no, look at my teeth, you're missing a tooth, right? And so I'm like, I was horrified, I was terrified, I didn't want her to be offended. But this is a 3-year-old, and we can't control what they say. And so now we laugh about it. At the time, I did not think it was funny, okay? So I say all that to say, we can't control these babies. We can't control them when they come here. It's their world. We have to allow them to teach us, and we have to embrace those changes. So I was recently talking to one of my supervisors, one of my administrators, and she gave me a great quote, and that is, moms and dads are born when babies are born. And I really thought about that, like that is true, because there's no handbook, and even if it was, it doesn't apply to every baby, right? So a baby fills a space in your heart that you never knew was empty. Have you ever just been around someone's baby and you're like, I just love this little baby, and you don't even know why this baby is like, the baby is gravitating towards you and you're gravitating towards them, and it's just like, this baby is special. That happens all the time. But I also tell people, and it's something very similar to what the pediatrician said earlier, a baby is a blank canvas. Whatever you paint on it, that's what the picture is going to be. And I typically say it's like a white piece of paper, so whatever we put on that white piece of paper is how the baby turns out. So we have to be very mindful about the things that the environment the baby is in, and what we're doing around the baby, because they're sponges, they're pulling everything you're doing, right? A baby's laughter is pure and heartwarming and can make even the grumpiest of people smile. And I don't know if you've ever been around older people, like when I had my son is 26. When I had him, my grandmother and one of my great uncles they were in really bad health at the time. And to be honest, the doctor was like, what has happened? Like your health is turning around, like you have all this energy. And it's just because this baby was here, and it just gave them more life, and they lived a couple more years than they thought that they would, to be honest. To the new parents, don't forget to be kind to yourselves and to each other. You are both new to this. You will both have moments of insecurity and overwhelm. So talk to each other. Be supportive. Be proud of your partner and encourage them. There is no one way to parent, so learn and guide each other so you can both be the very best parents that you can be. So let's talk about being aware of your own and others' expectations. First things first, just throw the expectations out. Just toss them, because those expectations will lead you to a level of disappointment that you're just not even ready for, okay? Now, there are some things that I think you should probably talk to your significant other about, such as, what are the things that I want to replicate with my own child that may have happened in your life that works well for you? But what about the things that you want to do differently? Maybe you didn't like the way, when you look back, you didn't like the way that you were parented, or you didn't like the way your mom or your father spoke. Maybe they talked too loud, maybe they cursed. Those are the things that you're like, you know what? I don't want to do that with my child, right? So you have to kind of identify those things from the beginning. But get rid of those expectations, and other people are going to have a lot of expectations on you. How about when you're looking at social media and you see all these perfect babies, and they're smiling, and the families, and the mom is all well put together, and the father's well put together, and you're like, I'm going to be just like that. And it doesn't happen for you, okay? It probably didn't happen for them either. Like, this is social media, so how many takes did it take to take that picture? Like, don't be fooled by what we see on social media. But at the same time, we have to establish a support network, right? And so because it is 2023 and most of us are on the internet, there are a lot of good groups on the internet that can answer questions for you, or you can build a support system on there, not just your typical support system or your family, your friends. people around you, your coworkers. But what happens when it's a question that you may be embarrassed to ask? Because it happens all the time. And what happens then? So sometimes you can go to the internet, you can go in a group and you don't have to take it for like, this is the end all answer, but it may guide you to somewhere else. So that's always a good thing. I believe in the internet. I do like to get on there and talk to people, and I'm in several groups, a lot of groups that help people. But everyone needs a support system, be it family, friends, co-workers, therapists, or religious leaders. We cannot do life alone and expect to keep mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy. Everyone needs some sort of support system on which to rely. And it comes from the craziest places. You could be in a grocery store. You could be picking up some baby food, or in Target getting some diapers, and somebody is standing right next to you and asks you a question, and you ask them a question, and before you know it, you guys are exchanging information. And this may be your next support person. And also, what happens if you don't have any support? How do you wind down? How do you take a break for yourself? It's hard. So you always need somebody somebody that you trust. And you have to find somebody that you trust. What happens when you're just like, listen, I don't have any more to give. This baby has taken me to a whole nother level. And you're just sitting there and you're like, I just need a break. So you have to find somebody that's going to work with you. And don't be afraid. When people ask you like, hey, is there any way I can help you? Be honest. Yes. Can you go do the dishes? Can you wash my clothes? Can you wash this baby so I can go take a shower? Can you just sit here and talk to me because I want to talk to another adult? Like, it happens, and it's okay. There's no answer to parenting, but the stress that if you do not reach out, if you're not open and honest about things, the stress can make it a lot harder and unbearable. So we have, just like we talked about Moms First, those are certified community health workers. Those people, we're great. We come to your homes, we talk to you. You can get a postpartum doula. They're great. They'll come home, they'll come and clean your house and fix some things for you while you take that time for yourself, right? Let's go over the real rules of parenthood. Your life will never be your own again. And if you embrace that, it's so much better for you. Because guess what happens? When we have this little baby and we're rushing this baby like, oh, we want you to hurry up and talk, we want you to hurry up and walk. Before you know it, this baby is grown and you're gonna be like, oh, I remember when they used to cuddle with me, and I wish that they would go back to those stages. And I can say that because, like I said, my son is 26, and I just remember looking at him like, oh, I wish he was little again. And at the same time, I have godchildren that are 4, and I took that time with them. You know, you get a little bit more mature as you get older, so you start to really, really embrace those memories and those moments that you have with the kids. Great. You may not ever sleep through the night again. That's a hard one. I think you will. You will. It might be a minute, but you will. Your bank account will be depleted. Yeah, because you're going to spend your money on this child. You want the best for your kids. So you do whatever you have to do to give them the best. You will go back to school. Even if you don't want to go back to school, we are starting. You're going to be in preschool, kindergarten. You got to do it all over again with them. And it's going to be a lot of stuff that you don't know because they teach everything so different than when you were in school. And it's going to be like, what is this? But you're going to relearn. You're going to learn it. Your ability to negotiate will be severely tested. Can you really argue with a 3 or 4-year-old or a baby and you're like, okay, you can just have it? Yeah, you lose a lot. You lose a lot. It's okay. You will get angrier than you have ever gotten in your life. You will worry. The worrying is just never going to stop. Never going to stop. Your parents worry about you. You're going to worry about your children as well. You will spend time with people you might not spend time with, which is true. You will make a fool of yourself and you will fall in love. Now, making time for yourself. So yes, I put on here breathe. I don't know if you guys are going through the PowerPoint, but breathe. That's super important because it's a reset. I tell people all the time, you know, open your lungs, raise your hand, take a deep breath, and exhale. It's resetting yourself because you have to be grounded. There are times where you get super excited or you're just worked up about a situation, especially with the baby, or the baby won't stop crying and you're like, listen, I've changed your diaper, I fed you, what could it possibly be? Sometimes you have to take a step back, take a deep breath, and start all over, okay? Shower and bathe. It may sound crazy, but when you get mixed up with a newborn, you're busy. You're trying to sleep when they're sleeping, but you're trying to take care of your home, take care of yourself, but at the same time, you're like, dang, I don't think I took a shower today, right? So you have to make sure you take that shower. Exercise, chatting with friends, you gotta keep up with what's going on with you. You don't have to, but I know sometimes it's like, hey, I'm still an adult and I wanna know what's going on with my friends and family, right? Shopping. The good thing is you can shop online now. You don't even have to go out the house. You can sit there and, you know what, today I'm gonna buy me a new outfit. Rest and hobbies, okay? Wow, I went the wrong way. So learning your new baby. One thing we know is a baby's going to cry. That's the way they communicate, right? They communicate, they can't talk. So you learn their cries. They have different cries. The more you pay attention to your baby, you'll be like, okay, so wait a minute, that sounds a little different from the last cry, so maybe this means that they're hungry. Maybe this means that they need the diaper change. Because in the very beginning, it's only like 3 things that's going on. I'm sleepy, I'm tired, maybe I have some gas going on, I'm hungry, and I want you to change this wet diaper, okay? So like, those are the first things that's going on when you first have a newborn, right? So don't stress yourself out. Just try to get those things taken care of and then reassess and see what's going on. Like, okay, I did all these, so what could it possibly be? But babies get overstimulated as well. So if you have a whole bunch of people around, they're like, you know what? I don't want to be bothered with these people either. They have their own feelings and mind of their own. And every baby is different. No 2 babies are the same. So pay attention to the facial expressions and their body movements because they'll tell a story. They'll tell you what they like and what they don't like. So, you're not the first, nor will you be the last parent that's scared yet excited, prepared but overwhelmed, and wants the best for your baby, but question if you have the ability to provide the best care. But you can do it. We all can. Trust your instincts and let the baby teach you. Embrace the change and enjoy every single moment because babies grow up and we can never go back and get that time back. That's why, you ever notice that's why grandparents act the way they do with the babies? Because see, they know this. They've been through it, so now they're gonna cherish each moment going forward with this grandbaby. They look at things differently, and I can say that. Like, I don't have any grandkids yet, but I do with my godkids. I definitely look at that totally different than I did with my son. I was a young mom, so of course it was like, hurry up, I want you to walk, I want you to talk, I want you to do this. Now I just embrace every moment. I don't miss a beat with them. And it's the same way now. Like, if you just take that moment, embrace the change. We knew when you decided to have a child, you have to say, all right, I'm gonna give up my life for a while, okay? It's gonna come back full circle. They're gonna grow up. They're gonna walk away from you. They're gonna be like, I don't wanna be with you today, Mom. I don't wanna be with you today, Dad. I wanna go with my friends. So, and your heart is a little hurt because when that detachment happens and you're like, but I've been here for you for the last 6 years at every waking call. But they're like, yeah, but I want to go with my friends and I want to hang out with them. Or I want to go over my aunt's house or my cousin or somebody else's. And yeah, I'm going to leave you here this Saturday night by yourself and you're kind of lost like, well, what am I supposed to do? Oh, this is the time. This is when you get it back. Oh, what you want to do? Oh, go out, go enjoy yourself. It's there. It's gonna happen. But the more you embrace that and you take that perspective, instead of making it sound bad or like they just took everything from you, and when you embrace like, hey, this is a life, and I'm creating this, and I'm molding this person to be this great person, and when they're an adult or a teen or a child, whatever, when you do that, it feels totally different. It doesn't feel like it's a task. It doesn't weigh you down. It's just like, hey, you know what? I get this opportunity to help mold this person. And when you see this person blossom into whoever they are, you're like, I did that. That's me, right? So, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. Now, just to close this out, I have Bob Mazeria. He's here from the Department of Human Resources. He just has some information for you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? Good, I hope. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Bob Mazeria with the Human Resource Department. First off, I would like to thank our speakers for taking the time and being here today and sharing the information that you did. Also would like to thank our vendors for coming on out and giving the resources and sharing the information that you have. What I'd just like to go over is just to talk about the health and well-being of children, which is a primary concern for the City of Cleveland. The City of Cleveland's paid parental leave policy, it's a new policy for those city employees, created for those employees that have a newborn or legally adopted child. This policy provides a new offering of 12 weeks of 100% paid leave for employees who experiences a life event of a new child entering their family. Both the birthing parent and non-birthing parent are eligible for this leave, and it applies for new births, guardianships, and adoptions. Due to this new policy, the Wellness Works team will provide programming throughout the year focusing on different topics related to parenting. The program will involve a variety of experts. Some have spoken here today, some are the vendors here today, to provide information, education, and resources to assist our employees with any parental needs. So, if you do have any questions regarding the policy, please don't hesitate. Reach out to the Human Resource Leads or directly to the Department of Human Resources. Again, thank you all very much for being here. This is something that is a wonderful policy for our employees that are either expecting or do have children within the 22-23 year. Thank you again very much. Have a great day.